It's an interesting time to be a new car buyer in Australia. We're blessed with an endless list of brands and nameplates, each competing for an ever smaller piece of the market pie. In the last year or two though, prices have started to go up with overwhelming demand and underwhelming supply, striking many favourites off of people's shopping lists. This has left space for affordable China-sourced models like our MG-HS here to shine. What a lot of mid-size SUV buyers will be wondering though is if they're better off saving a bit of cash and driving away in one of these today, or should they be putting their name down on a RAV4 waiting list? To find out, we'll be taking a look at the whole MG-HS range, so if there's a part you're interested in, you can skip ahead using the time codes that'll be up on your screen now, and if you're watching on YouTube, they'll be in the description below as well. As always, there'll be a full written review over on carsguide.com.au if you want to see a little bit more detail, and as well, if you are watching on YouTube and are enjoying our videos, remember to hit the like, subscribe and bell notification icon just to stay up to date with all of our latest content. First up, pricing and specs. We know MGs are pretty keenly priced, but what do you actually get with each grade? Well, it all kicks off with this base model here, the Core.
The Core is the entry point to a 4-variant HS range. We'll throw the range pricing up on screen now so you can get an idea of where each one sits. You'll note that the top two variants can now be chosen as an all-wheel drive, while the Halo variant is an interesting plug-in hybrid. The entry-level Core starts from 30k drive away, which is pretty compelling considering it's auto-only and significantly undercuts base versions of the ever-popular Toyota RAV4, Hyundai Tucson, and Mazda CX-5 Max. For the money, you'll score some seriously good value stuff like 17-inch alloy wheels, a 10.1-inch multimedia touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, push-start ignition, and a partially digital dashboard. LED DRLs and an impressive safety suite also feature, which we'll look at later. The Core is mainly identified by its plastic steering wheel, cloth interior and halogen headlights, but aside from that, it doesn't take away from the HS's glossy looks, so it's easy to see why it's drawing people into dealerships en masse. Next up is the Vibe. It comes only at a slight price bump and adds a slew of small items like keyless entry, leather-bound steering, electrically folding door mirrors, leather-look trim, and a set of roof rails. The upper mid-grade is the Excite. It's the first grade which can be optioned as a 2-litre turbo all-wheel drive, but aside from that gains larger 18-inch wheels, full LED headlight clusters with progressive indicators, sat-nav, an electric tailgate, and sports mode. Topping off the petrol range is the Essence. It can also be chosen in either front or all-wheel drive and adds electrically adjustable and heated front seats, sportier seat designs, a panoramic sunroof, and a 360-degree parking camera. You'll note that not only does the petrol range start lower than most rivals, but tops out much lower too.
Finally, that brings us to our top HS variant, the Essence plug-in hybrid. It's at the price you see on your screen now, and interestingly, it undercuts its key Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid rival by quite a margin. It's also the most interesting HS variant by far, particularly from behind the wheel, which we'll get to later. If the price wasn't enough to get your attention, then the design probably will be. The HS is contemporary and fun and offers a bit of a curvy alternative to the angles of many of its rivals.
While it's not entirely original, there is some clear Mazda influence in the showy chrome grille and light fittings. It is different, and the wide range of bright colours it can be chosen in adds to its fun and, most importantly, youthful look. The inside continues the curvy theme and seems to take inspiration from European cars when it comes to the key elements like the steering wheel. The big screens, which even appear on the entry-level Core, really add to the wow factor of this car. There are even extensive soft-touch surfaces throughout the entire range.
From behind the wheel, and I'm really impressed with how everything looks and feels, especially in this base Core grade, which we're in now. If you look a little bit closer though, there are some issues, and my main one is that the seat base is ridiculously high in this car, and it doesn't matter which grade you pick, leather seats, no leather seats, powered seats, non-powered seats, you just sit so high for how this SUV looks. I feel like my head is too close to the roof, and I'd say it grants you a commanding view of the road, but I even feel like my vision is a little obstructed by these A-pillars and this mirror here. The seat trim in every grade is really soft and spongy. It's comfortable but not supportive, if that makes sense, and the leather trims in higher grades leave a lot to be desired as well. I get the impression from the entire interior here that it's designed to look and feel amazing in a dealership, but very little attention has been given to the ergonomics and the driving position. Alright, so let's take a look at practicality. The door bins here are really quite big, plenty of room for our large CarsGuide test bottle. There are also large bottle holders here with a removable divider and a little slot which will suit most phones. Up the front here there's a little flip open bay. It doesn't have much room in it, and in this base model you only get one 12-volt port and one USB port, but that does extend as you go higher up the range. You can get multiple USB ports in there and such. There's also a console box here, and in higher grades again that is air conditioned as well, which is a nice boon to practicality. As I said, my driving position isn't great, and one small annoyance that I do have with this car is that the air conditioning functions are managed through the touchscreen, which is a usability no-no for us. The back seat is one of the MG.HS's strongest points. I'm behind my own seating position here, and I have miles of knee room, heaps of room for my feet as well, and heaps of room for my head too. There's a large door pocket with plenty of room for our large CarsGuide bottle, and a drop-down armrest here, even on the base car, with large bottle holders too. And as you walk up the model grade, you get a little flip open tray there too, which is neat as well. Now, there's also no adjustable air vents and no USB ports in this base car, but as you work your way up the range, those do start to appear. So keep that in mind if you're going to often put adults in the back seat.
The HS has a 463-litre boot, which isn't at the top of the midsize SUV segment, but we have seen worse. It consumes our whole CarsGuide demo luggage set, but leaves almost no room to spare. Under the floor in non-hybrid variants, there's a space-saver spare wheel, but the plug-in hybrid makes do with a repair kit and included charger storage.
There are three drivetrain options in the HS range. The first is a 1.5-litre turbocharged petrol with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic driving the front wheels. The second is a 2-litre turbo petrol with a 6-speed dual-clutch automatic driving all the wheels. Then there's a plug-in hybrid with a 10-speed torque converter auto.
For this test, we were only able to sample the base front driver and the Halo plug-in hybrid. So if you want to read about the all-wheel drive versions, keep an eye out on carsguide.com.au for a future variant review. For now, let's hop in the core front-wheel drive and take a look.
It's pretty impressive that even the base HS has such a contemporary drivetrain as a 1.5-litre turbo and a dual-clutch transmission. Normally, we see that kind of combination reserved for higher-end European cars trying to beat emissions ratings. At the launch of this car though, I did have some reservations about how those two played together. There was something quite unrefined about it, and it did have some issues when it came to asking a lot of the transmission. MG tells us though it's rolled out a software update which should significantly alter the way those two play together. They tell us it should be much smoother now, and credit where credit's due, it genuinely is. Its original incarnation, you used to be able to catch this gearbox out quite easily, but now it's much more difficult, especially when you're on the flat or in the corners as well, when you're asking the transmission to make decisions. But there are still some lingering issues, and one of them is that it doesn't deal with hills too well. I find even on my driveway, which is quite steep, it'll pull and jerk, and it'll do the same at T-junctions as well. And I think I said at the launch of this car that it reminded me of early Volkswagen dual clutches, and I think to a degree that still rings true. Now, there is a different 6-speed dual clutch that mates to a 2-litre engine in all-wheel drive versions of this car. We weren't able to sample them for our range test this time around, but keep an eye out for the variant review later on. Now, one thing I really do like about the HS is its relative comfort, where some mid-size SUVs pursue more of a almost performance tune. The HS leans into its comfort and its touring ability, and I do like how it sort of feels behind the wheel, but it does come with a bit of a catch. The suspension is soft to a fault. It will lean back and forth, and it does struggle to deal with its tall center of gravity a little bit, and that's a bit of a shame to see. It's most evident in the corners. When you do push it, it will lean quite a lot over to one side. The body roll is notable. It does feel like if you push it too hard, it'll be prone to understeer. Still, I think a lot of buyers around cities will really appreciate how comfortable it is and how well it deals with such urban things as potholes and speed bumps. And really, it's not too hard to steer either. The steering has an interesting tune. It's not as heavy as it is in the smaller ZS, but it is still a little bit slow to turn in. I feel like it doesn't quite have the responsiveness you might expect from something like even a Toyota RAV4. I have no complaints about the amount of power on offer from this base 1.5 litre engine. It feels strong, lively, responsive, and in a straight line where that dual clutch transmission is at its best, it's quite fun too. So it has its flaws, but I think it's more telling on the intended target audience in this car's home market. They don't necessarily care so much about how this car handles or drives particularly, but more that it's comfortable and it looks good from behind the wheel. One thing I'll give MG credit for is the sound deadening in the cabin. It's really quite good in here, and we did notice that they've put some foam in the engine bay around the edges and some really thick layering across the top of the bonnet, and it really has made a huge difference. The cabin is unusually quiet for a car at this price in this segment. Again, the ergonomics do leave quite a bit to be desired. That high seating position really exacerbates the tilty feeling of this car when you're in the corners, and it is a shame to see that there's no tactile dials or shortcut buttons that are really easy to use for the air conditioning functions and volume and things like this. But I will say that the nice big screen has really big touch panel points that are easy to use while you're concentrating on the road. Now, while it seems like this base car has quite a few negative characteristics, it's still really impressive for a brand that wasn't even on the map a few years ago. It's comfortable, and importantly, I think a lot of drivers who are looking at this price point will be happy with what they get. Let's go have a look at the plug-in hybrid and see if that's any better. From behind the wheel, the plug-in is transformative, and it's not just that 10-speed automatic, which is excellent, nice and smooth, gets rid of all of our complaints about the dual clutches, but it's also that electric motor. It's a really powerful electric motor, and it lets you coast a lot of the time with no engine on at all. It even has a fully EV mode, and MG claims you'll get 53-ish kilometers of range out of that just by hitting the EV button there. And it's actually probably best as an electric vehicle. It's silent and smooth and just all round a better experience than it is with the engine. Now, it doesn't really improve the rest of the drive experience. The steering still leaves a bit to be desired, and the ride is still a little bit frumpy and undulating, even though it's got a little bit of extra weight behind it. Where the hybrid really excels is that low-speed driving at scenarios like T-junctions, roundabouts, red lights. It's so much smoother to take off and so much smoother to slow down as well, because you have the addition of regenerative braking. I do wish I had a little bit more feedback for the regen braking though. You can see it goes into negative power when you decelerate on the dash, but unlike Hyundai's where you can actually control that and see how much power you're saving, this is a little bit more light on the information. Again, that 10-speed auto is excellent even when the engine's on, but I feel like when the engine's on, this car is at its weakest. It's noisy, it's a little bit unrefined, and it does have a tendency to over-rev at times. You can't hear it as much from the inside, but the sound from the outside isn't particularly good. They've done quite a good job of sound deadening in the cabin. I think overall the plug-in leaves you with, if not the best driving experience in the HS range, the most interesting and the smoothest around town. I think if anything, it's best as an EV, and that's very good for the future of MG.
For a midsize SUV, fuel consumption figures here are really pretty good across the HS range. Our 1.5 litre turbo has the following official combined figure, but our as tested wasn't actually too far off. I was left even more impressed with the plug-in hybrid. Its official figure is absurdly low, but assumes the owner will drive it in only ideal circumstances and charge it up every night. Our test number was still very good, especially given it had a whole day with little to no battery during our test week. This one is impressive too. I can tell you that the HS is a 5-star ANCAP car, but the fact that it gets every active safety item standard, even on the base 30 grand core, is awesome. Every HS gets auto emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, lane keep assist with lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, traffic sign detection, auto high beams, and adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist. Some rivals get a handful more features like rear AEB, but few have them all even on base cars. The ANCAP rating covers all but the plug-in hybrid, which has not yet been crash tested. The HS range scores a 7-year and unlimited kilometre warranty, but again, the plug-in hybrid is excluded, with only 5 years of coverage. MG justifies this by saying its electrified cars are a different business, whatever that means. The plug-in does get 8 years and 160,000 kilometres of battery warranty, which seems to be the emerging industry standard for high-voltage lithium-ion packs. Cap price servicing had not yet been locked in at the time of shooting, but MG assured us it is working on a scheme that will be available soon. We assume it will be affordable, but keep in mind brands like Kia have higher service costs to cover the long warranty.
So there you have it, the MG HS. It's not a car without its flaws, particularly from behind the wheel, but it's easy to see why these cars are flying off the shelves. They provide so many of those value items that consumers will be looking for, and on that basis alone, I do think it is headed for success. Did you enjoy this video? Let us know in the comments below. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and the bell notification icon if you want to stay up to date with all of our latest content. And as always, there'll be a full written review over on carsguide.com.au.